Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Jon Nieh. I'm one of the partners here at Trowbridge Nieh LLP. And this week I'm going to be talking about too many GPs, too many general partners. What are the issues with having too many people in your deal that are making the decisions? But before I get into that, as always, although I am an attorney, I am not your attorney. So please do not take any of this as legal advice. If you want legal advice, well, give us a call. Hire us to be your attorneys. So, too many GPs, too many general partners. We see this a lot in the syndication space where a deal is set up with 10, 15, 20, maybe even more general partners. And for those that don't know, a general partner or a GP or manager is someone who is in the deal that has authority to make decisions on behalf of the entire company. Well, you can imagine, right? If you have 20, 30 GPs, that means you have 20 or 30 people that have the authority to make the decisions for all of your investors. Uh, it's pretty clear. The number one issue with that is too many cooks in the kitchen. How are you going to make a decision? How is the company going to make a decision if 20 or 30 people have to be unanimous? Well, you might be thinking, what if we structure our deal so that, even though we have 20 or 30 GPs, maybe we only give two or three of them the authority to actually make decisions. Well, big issue with that is number one, what's the point? Why are you making all of these people, 20 or 30 people, GPs? Well, most likely you're setting up this deal so that each GP is raising money for you, right? That's probably one of the reasons, or one of the main reasons why someone would set up a deal with this many people, this many GPs, is so that they can go out to each GP's network and have them raise money from their personal investors. All right, it's basically a way of expanding your network of investors, of people that you could raise money from for advertising purposes. Well, if you do that, if you set up your deal where you have 20 or 30 GPs, but only really two or three of them are the ones with authority, well, you cannot, those other people that do not have authority, those people are not supposed to be raising money, right? Because at that point, they're not really GPs, they're not really managers. And there's something called the issuer exemption, which says that if you're the person raising money on your own behalf, you don't need to have a license, right? You're exempted from having a broker dealer license. And that's the whole reason why GP is able to raise money from their investors without having a broker dealer license. Well, if these people aren't actually GPs, they don't actually have authority, they no longer can rely on that issuer exemption, right? They can't raise money on behalf of the company because they don't have management authority. So if you do that, if you set up your deal with 20 or 30 GPs, and you say, oh, we can't make decisions because there's so many of us, let's give two or three people the actual authority to make decisions. Well, the other people that don't have authority, they are prohibited from raising money for the company, right? So these people, if they get caught, they could essentially say you're unlicensed broker dealers. So that's a huge red flag if you're, thinking about setting up a deal like this, um, and the SEC finds out about it, you could be charged with selling, without a license, essentially, right? So don't do that. And if you're an investor in a deal like this and you see a deal that's set up with 20 or 30 GPs listed out in, the management section, that should be a huge red flag to you, right? Like, number one, how are these general partners making decisions if there's so many of them? And if, they are not actually making decisions, if some of these people are not actually making decisions, then are they essentially raising money without a license on behalf of the company? So if you're an investor in one of these deals, that should be a huge red flag to you. But at the end of the day, every deal is different. Every deal is unique to those circumstances. If you are thinking about setting up a deal like this, number one advice to you is talk to an attorney, right? Hire an attorney to set up your deal properly and to advise you on the correct way to do it. And in my opinion, again, this isn't legal advice. This is just for education purposes. The proper way to do it is to make sure that you don't have that many cooks in the kitchen. You only have a few GPs, and each GP is an actual, GP. They have management authority in the company. They can legally make decisions, and those are only the people that are raising money on behalf of the company. That way you could rely on the issuer exemption, and you don't need a license to sell those securities. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like what we do here, feel free to give us a like, subscribe. We put out videos all the time. We give free consultations, free 30-minute consultations on our website. Just go to tnllp.com and you can schedule a consultation with me right there. But otherwise, I will see you guys next time. Ciao.